It appears once again I have creative freedom. I think I'll exercise it. I feel as though Heidi's part of the story deserves attention first, but the others should not be ignored. Or perhaps I just feel like it. At any rate, on to the escapades on the Gestalt cruiser. Everything in Heidi's view was predominantly orange, with a few dark spots. The black, fluid monster was held at bay, only just by the flames that Spades threw its way. Heidi looked around for something to help turn it back. She did not like the way the thing constantly flowed and shifted. Trying to find a way through the defense that Spades made, Heidi heard the footfalls coming from a corridor down on the left. Someone or something was running toward them.
Run, Otter. I will follow.
Spades said in her monotone, which did not mesh at all with the urgency of the situation. A flaming tendril lashed out, flailing for a target.
Do not let it touch you.
Heidi still felt she should fight. She was a fit ant otter and former military. She should not have to back down from much. She also should not be the one in need of rescuing. She was the leader of the search and rescue party, after all.
I won't leave. Go.
Spades said, cutting off Heidi.
No time to explain.
A black smear appeared on Heidi's bubble helmet as she was grabbed from behind. Heidi initiated the cleaning purge on the force bubble helmet, which fried anything touching its outer surface to ash. The resulting flakes drifted off into the chaotic breeze, now filling the corridor.
That was too close. Thanks, humans, for the expensive but good tech,
she thought. She turned and saw what had attacked her. The firelight did not give her a good look, but it had a vaguely wolf-like silhouette underneath the flames. And it was wearing an old Chimerican uniform, like she had seen on the bridge. But parts of it were jet black, and glistened in the firelight, much like the flying tentacle blot that Spades was keeping at bay. Those parts of it moved and rippled like a fluid. She spied tendrils starting to form from the body, too. Not thinking, merely reacting, Heidi lashed out with a kick to give herself some distance. The kick connected with a part of the uniform rather than the black gooey part, thankfully. Then she did as Spades told her to do. Heidi felt the heat from several more gouts of flame in the background behind her. Spades was retreating as well, bits of wire and junk breaking off if the monster got any kind of hit in. This was usually followed by incineration from the flamethrower. Spades used short controlled bursts to slow the roiling zombie wolf down and the black abomination behind it.
Right.
From her days in the Center Space Navy, she knew rank was not everything. A specialist in motion outranks an officer who does not know what is going on. As of when the strange inking monster showed up, Spades was that specialist. Heidi took the right turn as directed. She saw they were heading towards the ship's galley, according to the signs.
Oh, I see where. No rest until enemy purged,
Spades said flatly, pulling Heidi along, moving with cat-like grace despite her hodgepodge appearance.
You should be ahead of me. Keep moving. Do not lag. I will be your death if you fall behind. What?
Heidi said as she picked up her pace again. Spades did not respond in words, instead firing another flame burst, short and controlled. Ammo must be limited.
Where are we headed? Failsafe.
Spades indicated as they took another turn, with a flat
Left.
Away from the galley now. So much for trying to blow it up with gas from the kitchen. At least the lighting was intact here.
Failsafe.
Heidi questioned, and then turned the corner.
Are we far? Relevant. Affirmative.
And Spades said.
Must conserve resources. Or find new ones.
Heidi added.
Query. Did you bring a ship? Yes, we came here in a shuttle. Why? Relevant. We must break a siege. By who? Or what? You just helped me fight one. There are many, especially on the lower decks. Oh, joy. Right where we are.
Heidi said.
Irrelevant.
Spades said bluntly.
It is the current situation.
Then Heidi realized that she had not seen nearly the number of ants needed to crew a ship of this size, and let out another, less sarcastic, and longer, oh. In the formerly secret laboratory. What do you mean Heidi isn't back yet?
I am not thinking meaning is so hard to understand.
Olga responded nonchalant. You know full well what I mean, Joseph snapped back. This is a huge problem. We're going to have to call in more help if we don't find her. Like, now.
Didn't we agree that if something were to go wrong, then we should meet up at the bridge or the shuttle?
Steele chimed in. I don't think we actually had time to discuss the situation before the rat ran.
And stabbed me in the shoulder.
Steele shifted said shoulder just enough to be slightly painful under the freshly applied bandages. Yes, and stabbed you in the shoulder. Did anyone get her name? She blocked me out of the galley.
Records indicate an anthrat named Izzy Inkley employed as a lab assistant. I imaged the lab computer. It's a reasonable guess.
Lab assistant, that would imply that there was at least someone to supervise. Who did not make it into a pod, Joseph said. Also digressing, we need to maintain focus. We have a missing leader of our own.
Agreed. I say we return to the ship, Olga said. It gives us the most options.
Well, I say we go to the bridge. It's closer, and we have a good supply cache there.
We should stay here. Those cryopods may need monitoring. And someone should probably check out that storage area while we're at it.
Steele side-eyed the door to the area he was curious about. To Joseph, it seemed their resident mad scientist was a little too curious. No, Joseph said. We don't need to add to our troubles if there's something in there we're not equipped to handle.
But
that's what you sit on. The Fox cut him off.
For all we know, there could be a ticking time bomb in there. We need to know what's in there,
Steele said. And we could trigger said time bomb by being too curious. And if you're going to ask about the people in the cryotubes...
Ultimately, they can wait as long as they still have power. It seems stable enough.
Steele said, deflated.
I'm just very, very concerned. I was mentioning to Olga earlier, something about this whole situation seems off.
Yes, well, we're not going to figure it out if we get isolated and picked off one by one, Joseph countered. There's only 3 of us now. The polar bear got between them.
I am agreeing with both Ant Fox and Human. There is something very wrong here. Here is another idea. The dropship is not going anywhere. Heidi has entry codes. We have time. We stay here for now, making sure things are safe if she returns. 1 hour at least. If Heidi shows up, then all is well. If strangeness happens, we retreat. Back to the ship. Or maybe back to bridge if that is not available. We are not in active danger at the moment.
Well reasoned, Olga,
Steele said.
I will agree to going back if allowed to explore the storage area for an hour. That will be just enough time to catalog. I will touch nothing, just observe.
Joseph could not see the bear's face, but he could hear the smug grin. Somehow. Spacesuit or no.
I am more than just strong body, remember?
I mean, I'd like to do more than just look around, but this will just have to be enough.
Steele said, going to the door.
I'm worried about Heidi too, if I'm honest.
The others took up positions, looking at the door as Steele worked at getting the door open. With a cold whoosh, it slid open, and the lights inside flickered. The air pressure difference blew around the laboratory, and was even strong enough to make the tarp rustle on the odd specimen in the corner. As it stood, though, it was rather anticlimactic. Several rows of shelves and organized boxes greeted them.
It's neat. Too neat,
Steele muttered.
Nobody's been in here in some time, or sought refuge in here. Apart from the rat, and whoever else is in those capsules. It doesn't make sense, unless there's a body buried in the far corner.
It was at that moment there was a small noise behind them, like the whirring of electronics booting up for the first time in a long time. It was coming from underneath the tarp. The servos started to move, and actually almost sounded like music, and yet also like a howl. Not a tune any of them were familiar with, but clearly musical and eerie.
Anyone else getting sense we are no longer alone?
Olga said, drawing her laser blaster and motioned to the other two.
Stay back.
Steele and Joseph were both in no mood to argue as a shape writhed underneath the tarp, snapping restraints both seen and unseen. Joseph drew his own weapon, while Steele once again did not draw anything, but he did look ready to act. In a dramatic flare, the now shredded tarp dropped to reveal what appeared to be a quadrupedal creature made out of metal. A steel wolf? It turned toward them and let out a digital howl. Back with the rat. Izzy quickly hopped over another barricade. She couldn't stay in the freezer. It would drain both her body and her sanity. Her wander through the halls had not produced much since, though. She had picked up a couple pieces of abandoned equipment. A rusty knife, some miraculously still working night vision goggles. Whatever happened to the Enforcer, there had been a lot of fighting. This was the third obstruction she had to navigate in as many junctions of the corridors. What disturbed her the most was the distinct lack of bodies at any of the barricades. These barricades indicated fighting, and normally this would be a good thing, but there weren't even blood smears, just the ever-present ash. Not even a bone that she could find. As her shoes hit the deck, she began to feel the wind rush down the corridor, stirring up a blinding cloud of ash. She rushed around, groping blindly once more in the storm, knocking her head against a metal bar in the barricade, and then bizarrely felt fabric on the pads of her hand. She realized it was in fact a desiccated hand in the sleeve of a Gestalt uniform and promptly dropped it again. It rolled down her front, leaving a dark stain on the left side of her lab coat.
Ew. Ew.
Izzy struggled not to throw up.
Just had to think I didn't come across bodies. It's just blood. It's just blood. Really old blood.
She took a breather, again, easier said than done in the swirling clouds of ash. She wanted to keep that out of her lungs as much as she could, but her options were limited. She found her way to the leeward of the barricade and started to fashion a makeshift mask. The task would not be easy. She did not have a needle and thread, so sewing was out. The best she could do was roughly cut out a bandana-shaped piece of fabric from the hem of her lab coat and tie it around her nose and mouth. A tall order with the dull kitchen knife as her only cutting instrument, but she managed. The mask did not seem necessary at first, but now the ash was omnipresent. The ash-laden breeze had strengthened into an outright gale before long, big coming down the corridor and fast. Izzy squeaked once more as she groped around for a hiding spot, finding an open doorway. She flung herself through and slapped the button to shut the door. Izzy found the light switch soon after, revealing that she had found refuge in a small bunk room. The ash gradually settled out of the air as she got used to the light.
Maybe I can find an actual weapon in here.
Izzy said, relieved to be out of the wind. The room looked like it belonged to a couple of junior-grade officers, both anth dogs by the spare uniforms in the closet. The sudden stop of the winds outside put an end to her rummaging.
Huh?
She turned back toward the door, curious at the sudden muffled soundscape that did not bring her as much comfort as she originally thought it might. Again, Izzy's sharp hearing picked it up. It wasn't that there was no sound. The sounds from before were still there. Rather, it was as though she were now underwater with a storm raging on the surface. She got up close to the door. A flood would explain the sudden rush of air. But what would explain the flood?
Those fools on the rescue mission just make things worse.
She muttered as she noticed something of import in the strangely aquatic sounds coming from beyond the door. Air burbled, but strangely. This wasn't water. It was when she looked down that she found what was truly off, though. A black ooze seeped through the door. Izzy backed away in surprise just as it formed tendrils to touch her foot. Oh dear. It appears trouble has found everyone. Well, I'll just have to see how this pans out. In the meantime, there will be a poll up on RobsonCarl1. That's my username on Twitter. So, yes, and I bid you adieu, because I don't have much else to say.